All right, so we're working on strings. And these are the strings that I want to have. I want to have a string called app name, and the app name is AM radio. And I should already have an app name, and it's already called AM radio. Action settings is settings. Instructions text. So I'm going to call this one instructions text. And it's going to say select a radio station. I'm going to have one for minus label and plus label using those symbols I told you about. Ampersand LT semicolon. Did you notice how it popped open this closing string for me automatically? I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Let the IDE do the work for you whenever possible. So minus label less than, okay, string name equal plus label. Ampersand GT semicolon. And the only one left is default station. And I've just got dash dash dash, which will go in there for a placeholder while we're waiting to figure out what station we're on. Save those strings. Should not have a star there if it's saved. All right. Now let's make the interface. This is going to involve quite a bit of typing. But this is going to be very much like the other interfaces you've made for me in other classes. We're going to be working in ActivityTune XML, and I've already broken the built-in one, but that's okay because we're going to take out what's in there already. So we're going to work with a linear layout. XML namespace :Android equal schemas.android.com/apk/res/android. There's a quote on that. The next one is Android layout width match parent. Android layout height equal match parent. Android gravity equal center. Android orientation equal vertical. And that closes our linear layout. Now notice that we got this closed linear layout for us provided automatically. If you just press return a couple times, or enter I guess is what we call that nowadays, you can type within and you won't have to type that later. So don't delete that and don't be confused by it, but you want to be typing inside it. So now we're going to get a text view, and it's going to be Android : layout width is wrap content. Wrap content. And I imagine Android layout height is also going to be wrap content. And it was right. The padding is 24 dp. And the Android text is equal to a string, and that string is instructions_text. And because a text view is its own closing tag, we have to put the slash and the greater than symbol after it in order to indicate that. So you should have all the code on this slide typed in. Now we're going to make a linear, so that handles setting up the screen and this text view. Now we're going to make that horizontal linear layout to hold the button, another text view, and another button. And that's what this linear layout begins. So this is linear layout. Android colon. Don't let me make any lies. Android layout width is wrap content. Wrap content. Android layout height is wrap content. And the orientation is horizontal. And I misspelled Android right there. That's the problem. Android. If I hit save, we're going to get a whole bunch of things here. Part of the reason that I've got all these errors is that I've not closed my linear layout. Let me go ahead and finish typing and we'll see what else I've done wrong. So our linear layout gets a close symbol here, which is a greater than, and it automatically generated the matching close linear layout. Let me save it again and see if we have any more problems. Part of it is I didn't spell schemas right, and that cleared up so many of my other problems. If you're playing along at home and you noticed that I'd misspelled schemas, send me an email, let me know. So we're getting a warning here that this linear layout is useless, and that is absolutely true because I haven't put anything in it. So at the picture you can look and see that we have a button, we have another text view, and we have another button. So let's put a button in. Button. And because we're going to be interacting with it with code, we have to name it with an Android colon ID. Android colon ID equal, and it's going to be @ plus ID slash down button, and then we're going to do Android layout width and height is wrap content. And then we are going to put some text on here, which is the minus label string. Android colon text equal, quote, @string slash minus label. And a button is an atomic unit, so we do a slash button. Now, I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy this, and I plan to have another button right after it. We'll come back and we'll make use of that because the other button is very similar. So after that button, we have text view. Android ID is station text view. And this text view's layout width and height are wrap content. What else do we know about it? Its padding is 24 dp. Its text is the default station. And its text size is 54 SP. And that's size with a capital S. 54 SP. It's a text view, so it gets its slash closing thing. And now let's look at our bottom button. Its ID is up button instead of down button, and its string is plus label. So it's an up button, and its label is plus label. Hit save and see if there are any kinds of errors that have been generated, and I don't see any errors. If you are having difficulty getting your XML to mind, Make sure that you don't have any white space after the last bit here. Make sure that your strings are all typed in right. Maybe you have white space after the end of your strings. You can delete that white space as well. Make sure all of your files are saved so you have no stars. And as one hint, if you come to the gen section shows you the generated code that's written for you. If you delete the R file by right-clicking on it and saying delete, and say OK, Eclipse is going to recompile and rebuild that R file. And any kinds of errors that are generated while making that R file will show up here in your console. So looks like I have my interface built. You can always look at it in graphical layout and see if it looks like it's going to be the right thing. And to me it does. You will want to check and make sure things look to be the right size. If they look to be lined up right, everything's spelled right, good. And as I mentioned, if you let the IDE manage those closing tags, and this is true not just for XML, but also for curly braces in your Java, parentheses when you're making your ifs and your loops, then that'll really make things go a lot easier. So, does your app launch? Does it have the expected interface elements? Well, the only way you're going to know is to run it. Remember, you have to highlight the project name that you want to run before you hit your run button, or else it may be trying to start the wrong thing. So highlight your project name, hit your run button, and let it load in an emulator. If you've not yet told it what kind of thing this is an Android application. And if you've not yet set up your emulator, you'll need to pause, go back and follow some online tutorials to get your emulator set up. Now my emulator, you can follow the progress down here in the bottom right. My emulator is already loaded, but I've noticed that it's having some conflicts with my screen recording software. So sometimes when I'm recording a demo, it's going to misbehave because the screen recording software confuses the emulator. But let's see if everything works all right. It's offering to bring all my errors to logcat, which is fine. And now my station, so it looks in the emulator, it looks just like it does on the preview. Everything's there, everything's spelled right, but my buttons don't do anything. But we wouldn't expect my buttons to do anything because we haven't put in any code yet.